All right, everyone, welcome back to the final afternoon sessions of DrupalSouth Melbourne. We've got Weynham Zheng from CI&T up to talk about some enterprise Drupal reflections, and I don't want to scare you off, but he's maybe looking for a bit of audience participation in this one. No one's leaving? Good.
Thank you. Can I start?
Yep.
All right. Okay, guys. Welcome everybody. So let me start with this. The topic is basically about the reflections on enterprise Drupal architecture. Let me start with a little bit of introduction about myself. So my name is Weynham Zheng. It's an uncommon name, Weynham, like basically because I coined it myself to make it more, from a syllable perspective, more like similar to my Chinese name, which is Zheng Wenhui. But then I realized that actually it's a unique, actually if you Google, it's a unique name, but there is a very similar pronunciation, it's Weynham. So people all confuse me like Weynham, like it's a play something. But then I realized for Australians, you guys prefer short names, right? So sometimes a lot of like McDonald's, Macca's, right? Gas station, Servo, good afternoon, Avo, right? So naturally people call me Wei now. So just call me Wei. As you can see, like I have a Chinese background, and I have just been Australian for 1 year. I spent like 15 years doing Drupal, and I spent like 10 years working for this company called SIT. And this is also a company helped me like doing internal relocation here. So now I kind of started my Australian journey starting 2023. Like I will be there for DrupalSouth 2024, and I meet so many great people there. So I think if you remember me, I'm here, and I see some familiar faces as well. So just so you know, like the picture I took here is actually from a like China Drupal community around back to 2015, 2017. That's the amazing part of Drupal as an open source community. Like you have basically enthusiasts, volunteers around the world, right? Despite the country culture. So that's where my journey starts, right? So I've been building Drupal solutions, mostly focused on the enterprise side of things for the past 10 years. And I worked on a lot of different solutions, some interesting solutions, some interesting code bases. So that's potentially what I'm talking about for this session majorly, right? And then also, now I'm in Melbourne, and it's really great to see this year DrupalSouth is in Melbourne, and there is no reason I'm not joining. And I said, okay, let me also throw a session here. Gladly it got accepted. And so just so you guys, Melbourne is the best city in Australia. Now just joking apart. I just want to bring a disclaimer here. You know that I have a Chinese background, and please bear with me with my mixed accent of American accent, British accent, and also Australian accent as well. So because like my English primarily, I learned speaking everything from American TV shows, dramas, right, and then British TV shows. I'm a big fan of sci-fi. I like Doctor Who, right, or the Black Mirror series. Like that's where I got really a mixed accent. Sorry for that, but all good. All the front. And also, like if I'm like doing some inappropriate cultural references, please forgive me. I have no intention, no harm intention, and thanks for no offense taken. All right. So let's jump to the topic, right? So this is more really a reflection because I've been doing Drupal so many years, and I started around the era of the Drupal 6, Drupal 5, Drupal 6 at that time. So before I start, I want to actually do a little quick polling here. Like, how many of you come from the pre-Drupal eras? Just hands up. Like pre-Drupal 8, sorry, pre-Drupal, Drupal 6, Drupal 7. Yeah, all right, okay. So how many of you are developers? Perfect. And then just like on a normal basis, like how many of you are building decoupled websites or like, okay, primarily decoupled websites? Okay, how about still vanilla Drupal? Okay, yeah, so that's good. So then I just want you at this stage do some reflection. Like, do you still remember your first Drupal website you created? the first Drupal module you created? And also, do you remember that moment what makes you fall in love with Drupal? And I'm assuming you're still in love with Drupal. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. All right. So do you still remember some of those exciting moments that you accomplished something with Drupal? All right. And also, take a reflection as well, together with me, looking back 5 years, 10 years, right, 15 years. Do you still feel that Drupal is heading back the right direction that you were hoping for? Right. I know that we were struggling with a lot of issues, problems we want to solve. We submit the patches ourselves, we write the issues. But given the current status of your day-to-day work, your involvement in Drupal communities, your engagement with your clients on Drupal solutions, Drupal proposals, do you still feel it's heading in the right direction? I'm not criticizing here. I just want to give certain reflections, right? Because that's where I'm going to do my own reflection for this session. And also just a disclaimer here. Everything I'm going to talk about today, it's highly opinionated and my opinion only. You might disagree, agree or disagree, but we can discuss later on. So this is one of the slides I actually want to think about it, right? So my journey started with Drupal around like 2008. At that time, I was still in college. I want to build a website for mathematical modeling sort of thing, like more like internal organization tool. And I go through all the open source, like software framework I can find out. And the moment I unzipped a Drupal turbo, it attracted my eyes. You know why? Because at that time, all the other PHP project, it's single, like it's a file-based. Like you have multiple entries, you have multiple PHP files, but the Drupal was the only one that have a single entry point. It's amazing, right? Then to me, I just don't understand. How can you do a single entry point for PHP, right? So that got me to start my digging, understanding, and then to realize the entire hook system, the nodes at that time, the CCK, the views, and everything. It's amazing. Like the architecture of the application, the framework itself, it's marvelous. Like it's fabulous. And then that time, like later on, Drupal 7 was released, and then CCK got included in Drupal 7. We have entities in Drupal 7. Look, think about it, right? I'm also at that time in college, I'm also enthusiasm about Linux. Like I play with Arch Linux all the day. So like that's where I got to realize like there is a lot of similarity between Linux core and the Drupal. For Linux, you have file-based system as API. Like files API, basically device is a file, right? Everything is with a single like common API entry point. And then for Drupal, we have entities, right? And then yeah, and also we have hooks. Linux have hooks, we have hooks. Remember, Drupal 7 was be able to implement a event-driven architecture with PHP object-oriented programming era, right? That's the amazing part, right? And then that's where I think most of the people like websites nowadays Drupal 7 because it was, from my view, it was well designed and so good. And then later on we have a Drupal 8. It's amazing. Like with that, we were able to use Composer, a lot of goodies of a PHP-oriented, like object-oriented programming. Like now, all good. But the only problem that is like, I know it's a hard decision the community have to make. We have to throw out everything we have with Drupal 7 and rebuild with everything from scratch based on Symfony on Drupal 8, right? And then you can also see that green box there, like a lot of things outside Drupal world is happening at the same time, right? So before that, we have jQuery, we have prototype. I'm not sure how many do you know still remember this word, prototype as of JS framework. But then within that 5-6 years range, we have Drupal PHP 7 released. We have the entire React V8 node JS engine released. We have like entire inventions around the front end world is happening, right? And then we reach out to a point, then later around like 2017, 2016, what leaves to us is that like, okay, the Drupal used to be the problem Drupal solved the best. It's not the case anymore, right? Because before 2010, right, if you look at all the world, all the frameworks, everything, Drupal was the only framework that you would be able to, build websites, generate DOM, like generate pages quite easily. But then after that 5 years, the DOM. So basically, I put a thing that is the DOM, dominance of DOM, right? how do you control the render of DOM is become different. Because after that, developers, if they want to build web pages, they don't think about the server-side generating of the DOM anymore. They think about the client-side generating. They think about React. They think about the components-based approach, which is really good. But the problem I see from here is that we stopped incorporating. Sometimes after like a user, like we get too comfortable on this one. We stop incorporating this whole change that leave us to kind of this current situation, which is still good. Like Drupal is great. Like we have so many good things, JSON API, the entire like experience builder things, like project browser is happening, which is really good. But if you take a enterprise lens into those things, like especially what I'm doing, if you are putting out proposals on a daily basis, you're working on clients with different problems, like how does Drupal sit in those kind of situations? Is this something really clients want? How do we compete with the other, competitors, right? Because with the rise of the decoupling front end, the entire things, then the expectation for a CMS like Drupal is it's already becoming it's just a CMS for data, right? You don't handle the DOM rendering. That's not your problem. And also the best part I like it about Drupal is anyone like remember we have this virtual DOM concept for the front end, right? But think about the render array. The render array in Drupal is essentially a virtual DOM, if you think about that, right? Anyway, let's move on to next slide. So that's purely my view. What is happening out there within the enterprise MSDXP realm? Like, that's my experience. I'm not sure if you would agree. Drupal is actually decreasing in enterprise tech as a website builder. So like I have been working with a lot of global kind of enterprise pharmaceutical companies. They love Drupal. Like they were using Drupal because it have governance in place. They have everything like mono. But nowadays they are actually ditching Drupal. Some of them turning into Adobe AEM. I don't know why, but they turn to Adobe AEM. And some of them actually choosing the other competitors with the same things about headed CMS, going to Contentful, right? Going to Optimizely. So I think if you look at, like I'm not going to go down with a comparison of those headed CMSs, but still, if you look at it from a headless perspective, Drupal still has its best part about the data management, the data setting up the data object, right? The UI interfaces, everything. So that's certainly like, also I'm seeing another trend that Drupal is transforming to mostly like a content service. I have been with quite a few clients. What they are asking nowadays is really put Drupal inside their entire infrastructure, IT architecture as one of the content services or the master data services. So I will talk about this kind of part later on. But to my view, like what have changed, right? So basically before Drupal 7 eras, why companies adopt Drupal as their kind of main experience CMS? I think it's developers, right? So at that time, a lot of developers looking for tools, they find Drupal, they advocates it in the enterprise. That's why it got adoption. And then with the shifting of the scale, the landscape of the front end side of things between the 2010 to 25, a lot of developers actually moved to the cool stuff, right? The new case, the React, everything, and people start like whenever they start building internal applications, that's where they go think about, right? They think about React, which is perfectly good. Like from technical perspective, that is the right choice. But then for Drupal, are we actually thinking like shifting our positions, relooking our positions in those sort of architectures? Are we keeping up our pace to actually, from a marketing perspective, from a marketing perspective, are we actually keeping our pace there? So that's some of the reflections here, just to look at them. Okay, I need to quick. There are lots of slides. I might not be able to deep dive in some of those, but feel free to reach out. We can have some discussions. Okay, next one. Think about like why do you use Drupal in the first place, right? Why are you still here? Are you still using Drupal? So like I just put a few things from myself, right? It's free, open source. It's flexible, customizable. Lovely community, tons of modules. Maybe my job just requires me to do it, which is fine. And agility on prototyping and the delivery, right? I was actually talking to my colleague the other day. I said, with CMS, with Drupal, you have a business problem, you stop thinking about the MVCs, you stop think about the tables, you think about the domains, the entities, like how do you do the interactions. So that's already a abstraction layer as a content management framework, move you to more business-oriented thinking, how to architecture, solve the business problems, which is I love the best, I love the most, right? It's just simply amazing. And then on the other side, things, why not using Drupal? Because, okay, it have a literally steep learning curve. That's for true. PHP. To be honest, like you might not agree, but some technical guy, when they hear PHP, just go away. No offense. They love WordPress, right? And also like there's this intimidating initial setup and configuration. Like there are constant upgrades. I want a SaaS, not a code base, right? So those are all legit complaints of Drupal, right? It's not a tool right for everyone, but just to be mind of like some of those ideas, right? Next one. So why enterprise should choose Drupal? Why they don't choose Drupal, right? Yeah. So let me move on to this one. So basically, it's free open source. It's very secure, and for Drupal, we have a lot of best practices, security, governance in place, built by amazing Drupal like developer communities. That we know, right? Like for sure. And the back office UI for almost everything. You can literally build an amazing back office UI for everything, right? And content management, moderation, content governance, content hub syndication, right? Why not? It's free and open source. Some customers just don't want to hear about open source. They don't want to hear free. They want something prioritized, right? WordPress, it's like often when people hear about Drupal, because Drupal has been around the market so many years, maybe we need a brand refresh, some sort of thing, because when people hear Drupal, some people just taken back to Drupal 7, Drupal 6 era, it's just an equivalent of WordPress, which is not, right? So again, PHP. And same, I want a SaaS, not a managed PaaS or professional service team. So sometimes they just want, for enterprise sense, if you propose a product with a subscription model versus a open source product with a hosting vendor plus a professional service team, sometimes the pricing just don't work, right? If you are a subscription model, so they know that they have an annual budget needed to pay for this one, so they will play that in. But if it is a like service team based, like they probably have a very minimal, very lean support team along the way. But occasionally there will be some new features, new upgrades that requires certain effort. It's so hard sometimes to get that budget out of them because they don't have it planned in advance. So think about that. That's another aspect as well. And then come down to, I will just talk about some of from my view, about enterprise Drupal use cases, right? Like multi-site, site template, site governance. This is actually amazing. If you look at the business, you won't see like how many of those companies they have this white labeling offerings, right? So they offer a base product themselves, but they want also to offer a white label product for their partners, right? So that they can actually serve those products like with their brandings, right? So this is a very common case. I've seen many people asking for this one. So this is a very perfect user cases for multi-site setup. So site template, site governance, right? There are still a few, one of the things we have done for one of our customers is actually they are using an amazing product that offered by one of our hosting providers here, which is really great. And also, but there is also a problem that it's not really fitting into their user cases, right? It's a good product, but it's a standard product offered to every customers. It does not do the integration. It does not actually slot into their business needs. So what we did is actually we built on top of this amazing product a customized user interface to manage to do the site governance work. So it solved the 3A problem like authorization, authentication, audit log, and also we will be able to actually help them. Like we want them to be able to quickly create the websites, right? Like spawn the website. So we created a guided installation process another way. So actually, it's just a simple layer on top, but from a business it makes so much differences, and they love it. And then content hub, content syndication, like I think you all know. And then we do have like commercial product provided by some of our community companies, and also we have like open source modules as well. Like there are some certain modules you can utilize if you want to create a low-cost, bespoken, content hub, content syndication. That's fine. Content moderation, workflows, access controls, which is amazing. You will always be impressed how flexible you can build up this kind of requirements with Drupal module, with advanced entity access control sort of things. As long as you do it right, the potential is amazing. And master data management, data enrichment, right? So for all the enterprise, there is a struggling of the master data management. How do I manage master data? Sometimes they have this kind of external source from different departments. They have this master data to be pulled into, but in order to consume them, you have to enrich the data. So how do you do that? Right? One of the solutions we were being using is actually, I'm not sure how many of you actually been using the module called external entity. Any? So if you haven't used it, I will highly recommend take a look, because this is actually a module that quite well, because Drupal have an entity API, but then the external sources usually it's a JSON-based source or REST API. But with entity API, you will be able to just convert that circle layer to a API layer. So just you will be able to query, index, operate on the same entity API within Drupal, but it's actually served powered by external source. This is a very powerful module, and we have been using it for many cases already, and it's great. And then of course Search API, just one of the talk this morning. Search API is also a very well-used module in our solutions. We have been using it in quite a different cases. Content as a service, right? So Search API, Elasticsearch, not solo, but Elasticsearch. The reason why Elasticsearch is in place is basically the scaling capability of Elasticsearch. So Drupal just serve as a back office UI. By the way, handling all the scaling capabilities, the schema management, everything to the Elasticsearch. So we have some cases, use case as well. So then one last part is basically layout builder, React components. We have been a lot of talks around those recently, and we have the experience builder is taking shape, which is so good. But if you want to really see how you can blending the React component, because nowadays a lot of enterprises, they have design system, they have their internal front-end team with React, they have shared libraries. How can you plug in Drupal into this ecosystem so that they can coexist, right? So Layout Builder is an amazing tool. It's very liked, endorsed by the marketing team, by the end content editors, but they want to keep this component library of their front-end teams, right? So this is a case that I can show later. So another slide, just copy pasting some of the things. This is basically kind of the modern DXP landscape, right? It's never a single monolithic Drupal website anymore. So Drupal is really serving as a content service within those scope, and you will need to be the integration, different layers of the data layers, or DAMs, PIMs, CDPs, e-commerce. You have to think about the data consumptions, serving for different channels. Those are common problems that enterprise facing every day, right? How do we solve that problem with Drupal? The content hub concept. Even though we have a few commercial products within the community, but the content hub is not just a product. It's kind of actually a concept. It's a ways of thinking to solve all these enterprise problems, right? So don't need to jump into a particular product offered by a commercial product. But when you're doing all this content architecture, enterprise architecture, think about how can content hub, content syndication can help solve the content governance, those problems. This is just a screenshot of one of the amazing talk. I put the YouTube link down below. But it's basically how you can use this is already running on production, and how you can use React component together with Layout Builder and leveraging the same design system component libraries. This is actually DrupalSouth talk back to 2022 in Brisbane. I would recommend to take a look. If don't wait for experience builder or something else, you can with this architecture, your team front end, you can work together. Already have the component library showing up within the layout builder and drag and drop everything. So basically, it's just utilizing the same front end technology, so that way, the Drupal as a content service will be able to be accepted in an enterprise IT infrastructure. So this is just how do you make sure, a technical detail, how do you actually put the component back into the systems? The next, I'm actually pushing here quickly. So another concept I think is really important is the mark, right? So what is mark? We are so good at inventing terms, right? So I actually like the term, because mark is actually be able to, if we are applying this methodology, this ways of thinking into the enterprise architecture, we will be able to actually achieve mark speed with our delivery. So basic mark is basically microservices, API first principle, and cloud native and handless architecture, right? So that's mark, right? So you design architecture in the future, you have to think about how you enable like from the API layer to enable the different channels, the different department, different consumptions, because nowadays you have mobile apps, you have websites, you have different digital channels want to consume similar content, and you have different like department to manage the content and everything, right? So that's where I think this is a highly recommended concept to deep dive into. Sorry, I just the time size I cannot up, but just highly recommend you guys take a look. All right, final slide. My opinionated rule of thumb. So basically, when I working, Drupal, sometimes it's not just Drupal. I don't really emphasize Drupal that much to our customer, because sometimes if especially with those enterprise customers, if you talk about the Drupal too much, they have their stereotype. It's so hard to change. They think, okay, Drupal, it's a legacy. It's a legacy technology. It's been around for 20 years already in the industry. And I have built Drupal sites before using Drupal 7. But honestly speaking, Drupal 10 is so different with Drupal 7, right? Headless Drupal is an entirely different thing, but they don't care, right? So sometimes just let Drupal be a CMS, don't overcook it. That's the first thing, because if you been here so long, you will see all kinds of course, it's wonderful, it's customizable. You will also see all kinds of different strange websites, people building with Drupal hooks, they do all sorts of strange different things and turning it. Of course, it can build all kinds of different websites, but sometimes I just feel they overcooked the Drupal, right? You shouldn't be doing, just CMS, you shouldn't be doing event management. You shouldn't be doing those kind of public, they have this magazine sort of thing that should be better handled by a separate service rather than Drupal, but they tend to do everything in Drupal. That's not it, right? Keep Drupal as a CMS. So let Drupal be your content service. So aim to provide the best editorial experiences to digital stakeholders, right? You are actually competing with some other commercial products within the industry as well, right? And also leave the content delivery to the other systems, my view. Still, with all these new things within the front-end realm, it's so good. I don't reckon we shouldn't be doing the content delivery, the DOM delivery with Drupal anymore. So leave it to Next.js server-side rendering, leave it to Elasticsearch for API consumptions, leave it to Content Hub for content delivery and everything, right? And primarily advocates Drupal in enterprise as a back office UI. So you will be amazing to see how quick, how soon you can actually build a back office UI that they already used to, and be able to manage all the different data types within the customer. And that's will increase the adoption, right? And then last one I was talking is sometimes let's not over brand Drupal as well, right? Just talk to their sense. You want a headless SMS, you want a content service, so that is we are using Drupal as a technology to deliver these purposes, but that's not talking about Drupal too much. Because if you talk Drupal too much, especially in enterprise context with all these non-technical people, business people, they will attach their stereotype, perception to this word. They don't know what they're talking about, but they just sometimes have a nonsense, not reasonable objection against it. That's my feeling in all these kind of conversations. But yeah, I think that's pretty much my talk today. And the last question I want to ask, you guys think about, is what do you think the Drupal will be in the next 10 years, right? So with all this movement happening within Drupal core, the Starshot initiative, the project browsers, things, are we really tackling the immediate issue of Drupal, right? Are we think about, maybe we just do we have had this CMS, right? Maybe we just put Drupal really as a headless, as a content serving, and separate the the DOM side of things separately, right? Are we doing the right structure? So that's some of the question I'm being really thinking. Oh, sorry, still you're not seeing this. Oh, good. Yeah, I think that's it. That's my last question. And so feel free to add me via LinkedIn and reach out anytime. Just have talks. If you like any specific topic I just mentioned in this slide, we can certainly talk more. All right. Thank you so much.